On today's show, Tyler Herro has accepted an invitation to the three-point contest, why you could win it, and what it might mean to the Miami Heat's future. Plus, Duncan Robinson could rejoin the Heat soon. Could he help Miami's poor three-point shooting? And finally, why the Heat could wait to add a player from the buyout market. All of that and much more on today's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, however you might be tuning in, YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Duncan Robinson could be rejoining the Heat soon, and the Heat could take their time before signing somebody off the buyout market. But let's start today with the news that Tyler Herro will join Jason Tatum, Kevin Herter, Tyrese Halliburton, and Buddy Hield, Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Lauri Markkanen in the three-point contest over the All-Star break. Now, the Heat have had a pretty good track record of winning the three-point contest. 4 different Heat players have won it in the franchise's history. Glenn Rice in 1995, Jason Capono in 2007, Daquan Cook won it in 2009, and then we all remember James Jones winning it in 2011. So what are the chances that Tyler Herro could become the 5th different Heat player to win it? So here's what I did. I looked ahead at all the three-point percentages of the players that Tyler Herro is competing against in the three-point contest. And honestly, Herro ranks pretty low on this list. Now, not that this necessarily matters, right? Like the three-point contest comes from a lot of things. And the winner is not usually determined by whoever has the season-long average, but I still found it interesting at least to take a look at who he's going up against. So Buddy Hield, elite three-point shooter, has been in the NBA for a very long time. He's shooting 42.3% on threes. You've got Lauri Markkanen right behind him, a hair over 41% from threes. And then Tyrese Halliburton, 39.8% on threes, so just a smidge below 40%. Those are the elite of the elite shooters. Kevin Herter right behind them at 39%. So those are the elite of the elite shooters. After that, you've got Anthony Simons at 38%, Damian Lillard at 37.5%. Tyler Herro comes in at 36.9%, so right about 37% for Tyler. And then Jason Tatum is the lowest three-point percentage of all the competitors at 35.3%. Now, again, this doesn't really mean anything, but it is still interesting to see who it is that Tyler Herro is going up against. And Buddy Hield is an elite three-point shooter. Damian Lillard, the fact that he's only shooting 37.5%, he's an amazing three-point shooter too, who's obviously good at making big shots on big stages. He's made much bigger shots on much bigger stages than the All-Star break in Salt Lake City, okay? So he's going to be ready to go. Anthony Simons, man, I've seen him shoot in person. He's a great shooter, okay? And he's got a quick trigger. The guys who usually struggle with this thing are the guys with maybe more of an awkward shooting form. So somebody like Tyrese Halliburton, as though he's shooting at an elite clip, again, almost 40%. I don't know that the three-point contest lends itself to somebody like Halliburton. Jason Tatum, by the way, coming in at the lowest percentage for the season, he's also an elite three-point shooter. All these guys are, okay? That's why they're in this contest. That's not breaking news. The thing that I like about Tyler Herro is that he's a volume shooter, right? 13th in the league in three-point field goal attempts. And he's got a pretty deep bag. Three-point shooting isn't just, hey, catch the ball, shoot the ball, hopefully make the shot. He's got it from pull-up distance. He can shoot on the move. He can shoot going from his left or his right. He can shoot falling away. What really strikes me about Tyler Herro is his ability to square up to the basket regardless of position and regardless of place on the floor. And when you think about what the three-point shooting contest is, I know I'm getting really scientific with this thing, and maybe nobody even cares about this, but hey, the Heat, they've got, like I said, a long history of guys winning this competition, and Tyler Herro winning this is something that could be meaningful, at least for him in his career. When you're going through the three-point contest, you go from rack to rack to rack, and you're looking at the basket from several different angles, and you're shooting from several different positions. Now, Tyler Herro is gonna he did tell the Miami Herald, like, he's gonna buy those little racks and he's gonna practice, right? Like, this is a guy, and Tyler Hero, we know how competitive he is. We know that he wanted to be a real all-star in the Eastern Conference. He's not, but he at least gets to take part in this, and that's why I think he was quick to accept the invitation. Should note also that while he's dealing with this knee injury, there are some questions about whether or not he'll be available. But from everything that we're hearing here, he's going to make it. This is not a serious knee injury. He didn't make the trip to Brooklyn for Wednesday night's game, but he's expecting to be in Salt Lake City for this, and then he's going to take some much needed time off. So look, I think Tyler's got a good chance. I think a lot of these guys do. Buddy Hield, nobody wants to go up against him, but Kevin Herter, Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, Lowry Markkinen, don't sleep on him, man. Like, all these guys are. This is a pretty good group. This is a pretty competitive group. Sometimes you get some guys in 3-point contests. You're like, really, this guy is. Why do we need him in here? But these are these are 8 legitimately elite 3-point shooters. Tyler Hero has as good a chance as any of them. And here's the thing that I really want to get to. This quote, again, from the Miami Herald. Um, Quote, I think it's good. I think it's leaning into the future a little bit. For him being Bam, to be an all-star, I told him I'm going to follow him soon and we'll both be all-stars. So that's Tyler Hero talking about the significance of being part of the 3-point contest, why he decided to accept the invitation, and why him and Bam both being at All-Star Weekend is meaningful to this Heat franchise. I'm going to repeat the key part to that quote. I think it's leaning into the future. And that's true, right? Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are the Miami Heat's future. Jimmy Butler is still elite, still one of the best 15 guys in the NBA, but we're already seeing the older guys starting to fall off. All the Kyle Lowry stuff, right? PJ Tucker no longer around. This is kind of weirdly become a young team with Jimmy Butler sort of capping it, right? But for the most part, look, the offense is tilted more and more into Bam Adebayo. It runs around and through Bam now more than it ever has, and more than anybody else on the roster. Like Jimmy Butler, the offense does not run through him anymore, right? The offense obviously doesn't run through Kyle Lowry anymore. Last year, I thought this was a Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler run offense. This year, I think it's a Bam Adebayo and to a lesser degree, Tyler Hero run offense. That's meaningful. And when Tyler says this is leaning into the future, there is a awareness and a recognition on Tyler's part that that development is happening, that Miami is tilting everything more and more towards Bam and Tyler Hero. And by the way, that's the right way to go. Jimmy Butler is going to find a way to get his no matter what. And he has he'll get a pocket in the game, whether it's the third quarter or the first quarter or the fourth quarter, where he'll just say, you know what, I'm taking over. Let me get into my post-ups. Let me get into the basket. Let me do all my Jimmy Butler stuff. Let me get into my mid-range game. Like, he's going to find ways to get his. And then obviously he wants to maintain as much, physical ability and energy as he can for the playoffs. So the more this tilts into Bam and Tyler, the better it is even for Jimmy Butler. But even better and more significant than that is when Jimmy Butler ages out of his prime and Bam and Tyler Hero are squarely in their primes, then we've already started to see what it is that the Miami Heat's future can kind of look like. Now, are we reading too much into Tyler Hero just taking part of the 3-point contest? Yeah, maybe we are. But look, Bam won the skills challenge and played in his first All-Star game in 2020, All-Star break in Chicago that year. And he took off from there. And you hear this all the time, talking to players in the league, like, when you ask them what it means to be part of All-Star festivities, especially by being a part of the All-Star game, but just being around other elite players, even if it's part of the 3-point contest for Tyler Hero. Like, they take a lot from that. They're able to talk to other star players. They're able to feel, more importantly, that they belong on that stage. So yeah, is the 3-point contest as good as good as being part of the All-Star game? No, it's not. All right. Obviously it's not. But being there that weekend via invitation is meaningful. And this is Tyler Hero's first appearance on that stage. Like, he was invited to the Rising Stars game when he was a rookie. That would have actually been the first time that Bam and Tyler Hero would have been at All-Star break together. Was Tyler Hero's rookie year. That same year was when Bam won the skills challenge and made his first All-Star game, but he had a foot injury, so he couldn't make it. So this is his first time, and the Rising Stars game is not as legit as the 3-point contest. If Tyler Hero's hanging out with the other guys in the 3-point contest, look at that field. right? It's Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton. Those guys are all-stars, and they've been and in the case of Lillard and Tatum, elite players who are faces of the NBA. So I think it's helpful. In terms of whether or not this could set sort of the groundwork, the foundation for Tyler Hero to make an actual All-Star game in the future. Look, the East is loaded at guard, but Kyrie Irving, he's going west. That opens up a spot in the future. Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brown, Tyrese Halliburton. These guys aren't going anywhere. Trae Young didn't make it this year, but he's going to put up huge stats, and he's probably going to shoot more efficiently going forward. Those guys aren't going anywhere. That's kind of the next generation. You still have DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal, James Harden. Like, those guys are around. They're all-star caliber players. They're going to be around. Zach LaVine. And then you've got like Jalen Brunson and some other, and Darius Garland, some other fringe all-stars, which is where I would put Tyler Hero right now, even though I don't think Tyler Hero got serious consideration from anybody. You look at his stats, 20 points per game, 2 years in a row. Obviously, this year is significant. He's doing it as a starter. The efficiency is there. It's not what it was last year when he was a sixth man, but he's still one of the best, most efficient shooters in the NBA. So look, he's going to be competing against some of the best guards in the NBA in this three-point shooting contest. It's a contest that doesn't really matter if you lose, right? Nobody cares if you lose this contest, but winning it would at least get people to notice Tyler Hero a bit more, and it could be a good launching point for not just the final third of the season, but for his own brand recognition, and for the fact that, hey, I am an all-star guard. I could shoot with the best of them, and maybe next year he's going to get to play in a real all-star game with Bam Adebayo. All right, a lot of talk about three-point shooting early on in today's show. We're going to keep talking about three-point shooting, specifically Duncan Robinson coming back potentially soon and how he could help Miami's really poor three-point shooting offense. That's coming up next. But first, today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by PrizePicks. Tonight, I'm taking Luka Doncic to score more than 26.5 points, LeBron to have more than 7.5 rebounds, Kevin Durant to have less than 6.5 assists, and Steph Curry to have more than 3.5 three-pointers made. That's just an example of how you could play with PrizePicks. How does it work? Well, all you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players, and if they're going to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch, including the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, the WNBA, and so much more. Entries could be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They offer safe and fast withdrawals, which is key. And PrizePicks is currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive up to 100 can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks is going to give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks is going to give you $50. You can figure it out from there. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. All right, we're going to get to the latest on the buyout market here in a minute. But first, Duncan Robinson made the trip to Brooklyn and is listed as questionable, according to the latest NBA injury report. Now, Duncan Robinson hasn't played since late December. He underwent finger surgery in early January. And continuing along with the injury updates here, Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, those guys did not go to Brooklyn. Kyle Lowry also did not travel to Brooklyn. So the fact that Duncan Robinson did make the trip to Brooklyn is a bit surprising. But I'm telling you, even if he doesn't play, his impending return would be pretty huge for the Heat. Look, where does Duncan fit in? Can he help Miami's offense? First of all, yes, he can help Miami's offense. Miami has the third worst three-point shooting percentage in the NBA. They have for a very long time. Their shot selection hasn't been great. Their shot quality hasn't been great. And the one thing about Duncan Robinson, you could say what you want about the struggles dating back from last year, ever since he signed the contract extension. But when Duncan Robinson is in the game, you know how he's going to get his shots, and they're usually pretty high-quality looks, even if he hasn't been making them at the clip that the Heat have been hoping that he would, right? We all know what Duncan Robinson is going to do. It's going to be that triple handoff. It's going to be all that kind of thing. The DHOs with Bam Adebayo coming off of screens. He does a really good job of getting open. He's got great spatial awareness when it comes to finding little pockets on the court where the defense is leaving him open. And so I think the shot quality is going to get better with Duncan Robinson. And I do think, like, look, the Heat are so bad at this point that anybody's going to help, right? We'll see how Duncan Robinson looks coming off of this finger surgery, but he was shooting closer to 35% over the last 10 games before his surgery. Now, he was he's about 33.5% right now for the season, but he had been progressing slowly but getting better. You want him to obviously get better than 35%, but then you wonder what the surgery because it was bothering him. So, if this surgery was a corrective surgery and by all the indications it was, and it had been bothering him for quite a bit before that, then maybe he comes back feeling good and all of a sudden he's shooting at a 40% clip. Now, is that wishful thinking? Yeah, it is. But you undergo these surgeries for a reason, right? And if it had been bothering him and he had said it was bothering him, then it seems logical that he would come back and after a corrective surgery, it would be less bothersome. And if it is less bothersome, and it is the finger on his shooting hand, by the way, if it is less bothersome, then he should shoot better, right? Like I'm saying obvious stuff here, but Duncan Robinson could potentially have a huge impact on Miami's offense. Look, Max Strus has not been shooting at the clip that you want. He had a nice game the other night. You obviously want him to get better. He also played 41 minutes the other night against the Denver Nuggets. The Heat are running out an 8-man rotation. Again, no Lowry, no Victor Oladipo. Those guys are helpful. Jamari Bouye playing big minutes off the bench. That's probably not going to be the case going forward when his 10-day contract expires here in a few days. Where does Duncan Robinson fit in? I think the Heat will probably play a 9-man rotation. If Kyle Lowry really is going to be out for an extended amount of time, that opens up minutes on the perimeter. Victor Oladipo can basically be your backup point guard at this point. If it's not going to be Kyle Lowry and if Gabe Vincent is going to start for you, and you don't need to play Max Strus 41 minutes a night anymore, right? So I think Duncan Robinson is going to see minutes right away, whether or not it comes Wednesday night in Brooklyn or after the All-Star break remains to be seen. But the fact that he's traveling with the team, that means that he's coming back soon. And I'm telling you, the Heat, they can use as much help as they can get. And you also hope that this time off, more than a month off now, does something for Duncan Robinson in terms of maybe a reset. He hasn't really had that, right? After signing the contract, the big extension there, comes out last year, total shooting slump to start the year, gets in his head, and he never really recovered from that. You do wonder how long this finger has been this finger thing has been lingering. I don't think it's been lingering since he signed the contract, back to last year. But um, you can sometimes see this with players where they just take some time off. They look at the game from a 30,000 foot view as opposed to being in it. Where sometimes you just can't see the forest through the trees. The fact that Duncan Robinson was able to get away a little bit, be around the team still at home games and things like that. This could do something in terms of a refresh because I've always said this about Duncan Robinson. He didn't suddenly become a bad shooter. He is a good shooter. He's going to get back to shooting 40% at some point, whether it's in Miami or for another team, right? Like at some point in his career, he's going to get back to being that elite shooter. Maybe he needs a change of scenery. That's something that we've speculated a lot about here on the show. But maybe he also just needed some time off, needed a break to just kind of get things straightened out. And maybe he really needed this finger to feel a little bit better too. Um, the buyout market could be another option where the Heat could potentially try to address their lack of 3-point shooting. But look, it could be a while before the Miami Heat sign anybody off the buyout market. I'll tell you why coming up next. But first, today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all of the fat and the calories, then you have to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little bit better this year. And if you're like me and you want to eat healthier but you don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got the thing for you. You've got to try Built with Built. Healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious that you won't think that they're good for you, but they are. They're perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they're healthy. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. These things are perfect for your post-workout snack or a needed dose of protein throughout the day. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com, and you can still do that, but you can also now go ahead and get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You could pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Built Bar is a longtime partner of Locked On Heat. Reach Locked On Heat on Twitter, Instagram, email us, lockedonheat@gmail.com. Let's take an updated look at the buyout market. All right. So I got two sections of buyout players here that we're going to get to. The first are players that are already waived and available. The second are players that are not yet officially waived, but we expect them to be waived, or we think that they could be waived within the coming days. So the first kind of grouping here, all right, Patrick Beverley, Bryn Forbes, Serge Ibaka, Justin Jackson, Stanley Johnson, and John Wall. These guys have already been waived. They are actively available as free agents, can be signed at any time, all right? David and I talked about Serge Ibaka on yesterday's episode in the third segment, so if you want more of an in-depth conversation on Serge Ibaka, you could go ahead and check that out. But in terms of this group, Bryn Forbes can't really do much outside of three-point shooting, but if you want a quick way to juice your offense for the Miami Heat, juice your three-point shooting, Bryn Forbes is a good way to do it. That guy's a 40% three-point shooter, knockdown kind of guy. The Heat have dealt with Bryn Forbes in the playoffs in the past. So I kind of like the idea of Bryn Forbes. He's not a true point guard in the sense of a way that like maybe somebody like Russell Westbrook, who could be available, who we'll talk about here in a second, could be. But he can handle the ball for you a little bit. And if you're worried about Kyle Lowry missing some extended time, that's at least a guard for you. Patrick Beverley is out there. We know that the Heat have sort of kicked the tires on Patrick Beverley in the past. Obviously, he was part of the Miami Heat development program way back when, kind of the one that got away in some respects. But Patrick Beverley at this point of his career, he's not doing anything for you offensively. He's not helping you offensively at all at this point. He's not really a ball handler, even at the point of like, he's not going to drive to the rim and kick out and create shots for others. Like, that's just not his game. It's never really been his game. And defensively, he's still all right, but he's not the player he once was. And he's always been a little overrated defensively, if you ask me. But could be a useful defensive player for them if they want to go in that direction. I would still try to address a need here. I don't think Miami needs help defensively necessarily. I would still try to. I think you want guys who fit what you do defensively, and Bryn Forbes doesn't really do that, but he could be a break glass in case of emergency type option for them. And look, Jamari Bouye is out there. He's undersized as a guard. He's still doing stuff. If you could just get guys to buy in and be active and try to jump passing lanes and stuff like that, that's more in line of what Miami does. Not necessarily saying Bryn Forbes does that. He will get attacked defensively. There's a reason he's out there on the buyout market right now. But again, if you're just looking for a quick sort of way to address your need, he's not going to fix Miami's three-point shooting. He might not even get regular rotation minutes, but he at least could be an option for you at the end of your bench. I like Stanley Johnson too, man. I like the minutes that he gave the Lakers last year. He's not a three-point shooter, but he can make a corner three if he's open. He's big. He's super athletic. And that's the other thing too, what the Heat need is they're looking for big athletic guys. They have there's a talent and a athleticism deficiency on this roster just as much as there is a three-point shooting deficiency on this roster. And so Stanley Johnson addresses that, but I think it is a real question wondering, like, if you sign Stanley Johnson, for instance, he doesn't play over Caleb Martin. Does he play even over Haywood Highsmith? I don't think he does. I don't think he does at this point. But if you think you can use him as another body, that could be another option. And then that kind of leads us back to Serge Ibaka. Again, we went in depth on it last night, but he's really the only sort of true front court guy who has been waived and is currently officially available. So if you want to go in that direction, you can. And as has been reported, there has been some mutual interest between Ibaka and the Miami Heat. In terms of the guys who are not yet bought out, but could be, Will Barton from the Wizards, Frank Kaminsky, Alex Len, Nerlens Noel, Derrick Rose, and then, of course, Russell Westbrook. We'll see if Derrick Rose gets bought out. I have the feeling that I don't know. I haven't heard any hard reporting that the Knicks are going to buy him out, but he's a name that's sort of been out there. Could be interesting for the Heat if you're just looking for a veteran who can come in and give you some solid point guard minutes off the bench. I think Derrick Rose makes some sense there. But again, no hard reporting that Derrick Rose is going to get bought out by the Knicks, but he's a name that's sort of on these lists. So I thought it'd be worth including him and talking about him for a few seconds. Will Barton, I don't know, 3-and-D reputation, but not a great three-point shooter and not a great defender, but a long wing could make sense there if you're the Heat and you're just looking for something. Kaminsky, I think if the Rockets did buy him out, could be an interesting option. The three-point shooting has fallen off recently for him, but at least there's potential there for him to be sort of a floor spacing big. Again, no hard reporting that the Rockets are going to buy out Frank Kaminsky. There was a quote the other day from Kaminsky about looking forward to finding a role with the Rockets, so we'll see. Nerlens Noel to me is the guy that makes the most sense. I think just as a veteran big who you can rely on for 15 minutes a game, 10 minutes a game, Bam Adebayo's backup. He makes a lot of sense. He's super athletic, could be a lob threat too. If you're just looking to run some offense in that second unit with Nerlens Noel as a role man in the pick and roll, that he could do that. And he's a good defender and he's a decent enough rebounder too. And then Russell Westbrook, look, I the Heat have had internal conversations about Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook still hasn't decided if he wants to even ask for a buyout or negotiate a buyout with the Utah Jazz. So that whole situation right now is pending. He's not really available. Here's the real thing, though. I think the Heat are going to wait a bit before making any decisions. They're going to wait to see what happens with Russell Westbrook and this other group of guys, right? Like the names that I'm talking about here, Nerlens Noel, Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose, those are much better names than the guys who are currently available on the buyout market. So for everybody wondering, hey, why haven't the Heat signed anybody on the buyout market? Well, the top names have already left. Terrence Ross, like those guys who the Heat would have been interested in, those guys already went to contenders like Phoenix and Dallas, and these guys have already added some players. So now you're sort of waiting to see how the rest of this stuff shakes out. That's what kind of makes the Jamari Bouye 10-day contract so important. It gives the Miami Heat some time. He's got 3 more days left on this 10-day deal. And so that 10-day contract has bought Miami some time before they're forced to fill out their roster, right? You have to have a minimum of 14 guys. You can have a maximum of 15 guys on your regular roster. When they traded away Dwayne Dedmon to the Spurs, they had 13 guys. They signed Bouye to sort of extend their window for 10 days. They can sign Bouye to a second 10-day contract if they want. The All-Star break also gives them some time here to see how things go and not really worry about being shorthanded in games because you're not playing any games during the break, obviously. So once Bouye's 10-day contract expires at the end of this week, they could sign him to a second 10-day deal that would pretty much go through the All-Star break. Now, at that point, you would not be able to sign Jamari Bouye to a third 10-day contract. Teams are only allowed to sign players to 2 10-day contracts in one season. So they could even just go off the board, not sign Jamari Bouye to another 10-day contract, just sign somebody, just whatever. They could sign you to a 10-day contract and you'll never play because it'll be during the All-Star break. But that'll at least keep them at that minimum that the NBA requires. So they have quite a bit of time here, and they could extend this decision until after the All-Star break, right? So I think they're going to take their time. I think they're going to take their time and wait out how the rest of this stuff shakes out. Does Nerlens Noel or Derrick Rose become available? Does Russell Westbrook become available? And do they do their homework on that and see if he actually would be a fit? These are really big questions, and the Heat, they kind of have to get this right. Like if they sign somebody on the buyout and it doesn't work out, they can sign up to 2 guys from the buyout market, but that's it, right? They're this close to the luxury tax that they can't waive that player and sign somebody else. Obviously, they can promote Orlando Robinson from his 2-way deal to the regular roster if they want to kind of go with the guy that they know and are most familiar with here. And then obviously they could bring Jamari Bouye and slide him in and backfill that 2-way contract and make Bouye the 2-way guy. So there's some options that the Heat have, but I do think they're interested in seeing what veterans do become available and if those are feasible and helpful options. And so for everybody wondering, hey, why haven't the Heat added anybody? I'm sure they would have loved to add somebody, one of these big name players, not big name, but like a Terrence Ross again, somebody like that. The Justin Holidays, like these guys who were available, who are sort of plug and play type of veterans. Yeah, sure, you would have loved one of those guys. Those guys are not available anymore. And you're looking at the list of guys who are, and it's not all that inspiring right now. Okay. They could end up signing somebody off that list, but I think they're waiting here and they can afford to wait one more game tonight against the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn before the All-Star break. And then they have the All-Star break to kind of sit back and reconsider things and determine what direction they want to go in for the final third of the season. But that'll do it for us today. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Remember to subscribe to new episodes of Locked On Heat on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Ring the bell to get notified as soon as new episodes go up. We'll be back with David Ramil, my co-host, tonight to recap tonight's game against the Brooklyn Nets. Now, go make your second listen. Game to Game NBA, every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.